Hey everybody and welcome. This is the Commotion and I am Roshan Joshi here with Dan Smith. And today we have an awesome guest that we are interviewing. So really excited to get into that. If you like our content and you like our guests, make sure you hit that like button. If you want more content like that and you want to see it, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you like any music on our page, make sure you check out Be the Human. His description is in the link below. So, coming out of Manhattan, we have ring announcer for Friday night fights on UFC Fight Pass and the Warriors Cup, Michael Hanson. How's
it going?
How you doing, man? Welcome.
All right,
welcome.
Thanks for having me on.
Really happy to have you on, man. You brought out my inner fight announcer there. So
that's right.
All that projection. Right?
Good.
Front of the mask.
Excellent projection.
You know what? I just don't have the face for it. So welcome. How you doing, Mike? Happy to have you here.
I'm doing as good as one could hope in these pretty crazy times.
Yeah, no, definitely. So we were really excited to have you on. We were really excited to have you here with us today because fight announcer, man, that is a very unique area. I really haven't heard of a lot of people that were fight announcers. Like, it seems like a very niche market, but it's something that's always seen, always known. Right. Any big promotion or big fight has a competent, solid fight announcer. So really happy to have you here. Tell us a little bit about what you do and yeah.
Yeah, so right now I am the in-ring ring announcer for two awesome New York City-based fight promotions. The first one being Friday Night Fights Muay Thai, which fights out of the Broad Street Ballroom down in the Financial District, way down at the tip of Manhattan. And the other one is the Warriors Cup Muay Thai, which is out of Long Island, Queens. Not Long Island, Long Island City, which is in Queens. So yeah.
Awesome, wonderful. So yeah, man. No, so we've heard about the Warriors Cup before. It's a pretty big promotion in that tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. Yeah. They might have more areas that they go to, but I've seen a lot of the promotions out there for Muay Thai, for kickboxing. So
yeah. Well, people travel for Warriors Cup, man. Chris Tran does a great job promoting that and kind of running it with a lot of other people. And yeah. Our gym hasn't won a Warriors Cup belt yet, but we're getting there.
Yeah. And actually, Warriors Cup, I believe they just changed their belt over from ISKA to the WBC Muay Thai belt.
Oh, wow.
Which I'm really looking forward to getting to say those words, like for the WBC Muay Thai Internet. It's going to be amazing.
That's awesome, because that's a huge promotion. So that's a huge opportunity for Muay Thai in the United States.
Yeah, amazing partnership.
That's great.
That is awesome. And yeah, man. So tell me, like, how long you been doing it? Like, what got you into this? How
does one become a ring announcer? Like,
yeah, it's a great question.
Job.
It's a question that eluded me for years.
Yeah.
So I've actually only been doing it since fall of last year. So, man, how far should I go back? So. I was in theater and I went to school for theater and I traveled around the country for the better part of my 20s doing professional regional theater. I did a lot of student films in New York. I did an awesome web series called Seeking the Web Series, which you can still find on YouTube. I'm plugging that.
We'll send us the link. We'll pop it in the description. So you
Seeking the Web Series. Thank you. And I've always been a huge sports fan. Basketball was like my first love. And I graduated college in 2008. And right around that time is when the UFC was really taking off and just blowing up. And I got swept up in that. I became a huge MMA fan. Been following it ever since. And I think it kind of has usurped my love of basketball. I mean, I'm still a huge NBA guy. And around, I think, the age of like 25, 26 years old, this idea just popped into my head of just like, I think I could do that. I think I want to do that. And even back then, I felt like that was too young to do it. Like, you need to have some age on you to kind of be in that role.
You gotta be a little more matured. Understood. Definitely.
A little salty. You gotta have a little bit of a gray beard, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Gotta have a little silver. And I got it now. Yeah. You can't tell, but in the direct sunlight, it like glistens.
Dude, I got some grays in the beard, man, that really pop in the sun. It's not a fun thing.
And my wife loves to remind me of that as well. So there's some mixed feelings. So yeah, in my mid-20s, it just kind of popped in my head. I was like, I think I could do that. And to be really honest with you guys, like the idea became a sort of a dream, and I always felt haunted by it, which sounds a little dramatic, I know. But I just couldn't get away from it, kind of thing. And year after year, I was working odd jobs and still trying to audition, do professional theater work, and I would always come back to it. And then I would start to like research companies of like smaller promotions. And there was a guy I went to high school with who, just from social media, I was never close friends with him, but I was buddies with him in high school. And I found out that he became a amateur pro kickboxer. So one day I reached out to him and I said, hey, do you know anybody, or could you at least give me any advice? And he said, all I could tell you is just reach out to every organization you can and just tell them that you're willing to start for free. Yeah. And just start there.
Heart of the hustler.
Heart of the hustler.
That makes sense, man.
And year after year, again, like I just couldn't get away from this idea that I'm like, I think I want to try to do that someday. Even though I'm completely aware that it is the smallest job market in the world, which is crazy, but I still want to do it. So I would just cold email different organizations, and it was always just radio silence. They would just never respond to me until this one time I got an email back in my inbox who said, hi, I'm the event coordinator for Friday Night Fights. We'd love to see a demo from you. And I was like, oh shit, I gotta make a demo. So I put on my wedding tux and I bought a $6 microphone off Amazon, and I overnighted that. That's cool. One of my best friends has a really nice camera, so I called him up and told him the situation. I went over to his apartment in Washington Heights, and I stood in front of his living room wall, and I just sort of like made up some announcing cards, and I just did it, and I sent it off.
That is awesome, man, and that's how it's got to be. You understood right away that there was an opportunity if you put yourself out there. And you put yourself out there. Yeah.
You know what's funny, though, is you think about now and how important social media has become and how much of an effective tool it's become to achieving certain things. Mm-hmm. And then you think about guys like, how did Michael Buffer get started? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, there was no social media back then. There was no way for him to really showcase his talent. He just had to be that good that he was unstoppable. So it's funny to think about the evolution of things.
Yeah. And the rest of that story is that about a week went by, and that event coordinator did get back to me after I sent her the demo. And about a week went, so she said, I just showed your video to the president of Friday Night Fights, and he would like to schedule a phone call with you. And I just like walked out of my bedroom and looked at my wife, and I was like numb. I was like, this is getting too far.
What have I got myself into?
So we got on the phone, and at that point, I was like trying my best to not get my hopes up. And I thought it was going to be the sort of like spiel of, look, kid, I appreciate your spunk and you put together this little demo, but go get some experience, which a lot of people told me, like, you're going to have to do some police athletic league fights and stuff like that, which are like held in little gyms and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to build a resume. You
got to build a resume. So I thought I was going to get that. And the guy's name is Justin Blair. He's the president of Friday Night Fights. Great guy. And by the end of the phone call, he said, what are you doing on December 20th? And I went, you tell me.
Hey!
Nice.
Which probably came out like, you tell me. And he said, we'll give you a shot. And so, Justin, thank you so much. And I'm just so grateful. And just since that moment, I was like, this is it. Like, this is what it's going to be from now on. And I had this opportunity, and I'm not taking it for granted.
Well, Justin backed the right horse, man. For sure. So, question.
Yes.
Friday Night Fights. That's on the UFC Fight Pass. How is that? That is one of the biggest platforms for mixed martial arts entertainment, period.
Yeah. I mean, at the time last fall, when I got off that phone call, because I knew that, I was like, holy shit. Like, I'm going to be on UFC Fight Pass. I mean, not that many people on Fight Pass are going to like click on the smaller promotions, but even still, there's like 500,000 followers on just their Instagram, for example. So it was very, very surreal. It was a very surreal and sort of exhilarating and terrifying feeling all at the same time. So how did it feel on the night? My first night, there was, I think like somewhere north of 15 fights that night, maybe 18.
Okay.
Yeah. And the Broad Street Ballroom held maybe around 500 folks, 500, 600 folks towards the end of the night. So the way that the card is structured, the first few fights are like kids. They're like teenager, like little amateurs.
Those early prelims.
Early, like they're both fighters are like making debuts with like 0-0 records. They're both like 17 kind of stuff.
Their parents, it's like their parents and aunts and uncles.
Exactly. So like the beginning of the night, like the first 45 minutes of those first like 3 to 5 fights, there's only like a few hundred people in the ballroom. So I was like, great. And because of their like amateurs who are making their debuts, I knew that it was going to be low stakes. And it's not like I was getting a rehearsal or anything like that. So I was like, those first 5 fights, because I have literally never done this before, even though I've thought about it for years, those first 5 fights are my rehearsal.
They gave you some training wheels.
They gave me some training wheels.
Absolutely. Love that.
Yeah. And made a couple of really embarrassing mistakes. But that's the point. And then by the end of that night, I was like, we're good. Like, I got this from now on. And the next event was 4 weeks later. And I was so glad because sometimes Friday Night Fights events are a little more spaced out, but I was so happy that the next one was just 4 weeks later. And I just like got right back into that groove. And it's been a great ride ever since.
So obviously you have the theater background, so being in front of the camera per se isn't something that's going to shake you.
Right.
But what is like your biggest fear every time? Like, so for me, cornering. Have you ever seen the movie $1 Million Baby?
Yeah.
Okay, so my biggest fear as a corner is not pulling the stool out in time and having that whole situation go on. So like that's the one thing I focus on when I'm cornering people is like get the stool out. No matter what happens, get the stool out.
Get the stool out.
Yeah. So like what is your like moment of like no matter what, I can't mess this up?
Yeah. I guess the more irrational fears is going into the ring with the wrong card or something like that.
Okay, that's a thing.
Yeah.
You're not expected to memorize everything, so.
Right, exactly. So I guess that would be it. I mean, I do a lot of homework because people don't really realize that combat sports might be the most international sport. Mm-hmm. So the names that I have to deal with or try to pronounce, which being an actor, having a degree in speech therapy, also like really lends itself to doing those kinds of things. Like I know phonetics and all that kind of stuff. So whether it's a Eastern European name, a Russian name, an African name, I do my homework. So just like in theaters, like the more preparation I do leading into the night, the more I walk in there just like relaxed and happy.
Fail to prepare to fail.
Bingo.
I was going to ask you about the pronunciation. So that's great that you kind of take into account that, hey, let me take a little bit of time and try to get these guys' names right. Actually, fun fact, guys, Michael asked me even before we started the call, he was like, so let me just make sure I got the pronunciation of your name.
It's a habit.
No, it's a good habit. It's a great habit.
It's respect too. It's a form of respect. People's names are their names. It's part of our identity. And
even if you're announcing the fight right in the beginning when you're kind of you're commanding the crowd. So if there's
Yeah.
that lack of preparation,
Yeah.
kind of affects the crowd's energy as well.
It's an interesting kind of entertainer's role, because as a ring announcer, like I don't get to have any spare words. So like every word is just a part of the thing, of the spiel.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that I have to hype the crowd is more so with my inflection or with my volume or things like that.
So
yeah, I was gonna say, like, when you watch Bruce Buffer do it, who I'm assuming is somebody that's good at his job. I don't know the nuance, but I assume he's good. He's been doing it forever.
Yeah.
His announcing of the prelims and the undercard and what have you is so much different and so much less theatrical than when he's doing the main event.
Sure.
And it almost kind of, like you said, it sets the tone for the fight itself.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse. I think back to the Francis Ngannou Derrick Henry UFC fight.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you could tell Bruce Buffer was pumped. I mean, he was going all out. And then you're excited. He's got you going and you're pumped. And then that fight happens. You're like, what the hell is this?
I know.
And he sets such a great tone. And then those,
right. He can only do so much.
Right.
Well, that's another thing. Fighters even feed off the energy. Like when they're hearing their own name. So tell me a little bit about that. How's like your interaction, I guess, when you're announcing a fighter? Because you're right next to that dude.
Yeah.
How's that energy?
It is a little bit of, it's pretty cool to see them when I turn towards them, and actually I try not to look at them too much because I'm reading the card, but I angle the card so that it almost looks like I'm pointing at them, but I'm still sort of like reading what I've written on my card.
You're getting the angle on it. Yep.
Yeah. But sometimes I catch, because again, I'm terrified of like catching eyes with them, and then like I mess up because they're like, yeah, and I'm like, oh no. But it is cool to see them sort of feeling a little hyped because I'm going through their record and their knockouts and all that kind of stuff, and what gym they're fighting out of and where they're from. There's one guy, my first night announcing for Friday Night Fights, I was tagging along with the guy who does play-by-play. His name is Ariel Agame. And because I didn't really know anybody, and Ariel has been on their team for a few years now, I was like, Ariel, I'm like going to be on your shoulder the whole night. And he was so cool about that. So he's doing his homework as well, going around to different fighters, and he takes a lot more information than I do. Because while he's doing play-by-play, he mentions that they do this in their spare time and all that kind of stuff. So coming up from where the fighters' sort of sanctuary is, we bumped into this guy in the stairwell, and he's this very unassuming guy, and Ariel goes, oh hey, let me ask you a couple questions. Oh, by the way, this is Michael, he's our new ring announcer. And he asked him a few questions, and his name was Juan Cortez, and shook his hand and said, good luck tonight. And Ariel turns to me and he goes, that guy, when you announce him, like, do it up, because New York loves that guy. I was like, what's his nickname again? He goes, his nickname is Juan Mucho Macho Cortez.
Ooh,
and I was like,
Macho.
You bet, man. And that fight that night was not on the UFC Fight Pass broadcast because it was on the undercard. So I asked Ariel to record it, and thank God, because that place, the roof blew off for that guy, and he was not wrong. He was electric, and every attribute that I said for Juan, fighting out of this place. Oh, and he was from Mexico. So I was like, oh, it's over.
Yeah.
And he was from Puebla, Mexico. And I put a little Spanish, I said Mexico for the crowd. And I really kind of gave it some energy, and people lost their minds. Because if anybody is a fight fan, they know like the fighting pride of Mexican combat sports. It was amazing. It was amazing.
Some of the best boxers in the world. Most heart, most guts.
Famous. That if you're fighting a guy from Mexico, win, lose, or draw, you're in for a fight.
Mm-hmm.
He was amazing.
Yeah.
And that was the 10th fight, I believe, of the night. And that was the fight where I was like, no matter what I do in my life, I can never lose this feeling.
Nice.
Yeah,
like I will fight tooth and nail to keep this job and grow it, kind of thing.
There's definitely got to be something electric, that the goosebumps, the hair standing on the back of your neck kind of feeling behind that.
I couldn't do it. I don't have enough like energy, I guess. Like I can't like project enough for something like that. I mean, to really, like you said, your whole job is to get the crowd up and get them involved, and the nuance, like pronouncing the names, and like you just said, adding the little bit of the Spanish, enunciation.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. I can't do so. I'm like, this guy's from Mexico.
Right.
Oh man. So you get like a very, very different perspective, I guess, of the match. So kind of, as me personally, I kind of size the guys up beforehand and make my own opinions on who's gonna win, who's gonna lose. How often do you feel like you're right? And has there ever been like a turn where you've been like, holy crap, did he really just do that?
Are we talking about fights that I'm at?
Yeah, that you've done the announcements for.
Oh man, that's a great question. It is one of the obvious perks of the job is like it's the best seat in the house. I could touch the mat, when I'm sitting down. So, oftentimes it's just because I don't know all the fighters who were sort of in that circuit yet.
Of course.
I'm more of a learning and I'm observing, but oftentimes, it's all about heart at that level. It's all about, I don't know. Because like the cream rises to the top, no matter what level you're at.
No, so basically what I'm asking is like, you see two guys and you kind of size them up either way. And in my opinion, if I see somebody in red corner, I see somebody in blue corner, I'm going to make an assumption on who's going to win, who's going to lose. Before it happens, it's my own personal opinion. Not that I'm going out shouting it to everybody. But has your personal opinion ever been like, man, I was dead right, or holy
100%.
gosh, geez, I was dead wrong. What just happened
100%.
here?
Sometimes, because Muay Thai is, and Dan, you could speak to this too, being from your gym. There's a certain culture seems to be that differentiates Muay Thai from something like MMA. MMA, there seems to be a little bit more of an intensity in the air, like in the fight. Muay Thai, there's almost like a casual nature. It's almost like borrows a little bit from capoeira, where it's like a dance almost.
Yeah. So they're actually like in Muay Thai, if you notice, the biggest thing is the music.
Yes.
So the music that's played during the fights actually intensifies as the rounds go on. So the first round of music is a slower pace and a slower speed.
Oh, wow. I think you're right.
Because it's meant to be the fighters are feeling each other out. There's really not supposed to be a whole lot of action in the first round of a Muay Thai bout. Mm-hmm. And then when you get to the third round or championship rounds, the fifth round or what have you, the pace is much, much faster and it's sped up.
Yes,
and
you're so right. I don't think I realized
the tempo is higher up because that's when they're really supposed to be going at it. And we talk and train all the time about rhythm and, bop, bop, bop. Bop, bop, bop. And then breaking up that rhythm. And it really is, from capoeira, you're right, there is almost like a dance aspect to it. And then I feel like with MMA, it's how can I go in and just tear this guy apart, right? Whether it's standing up, whether it's running across the cage, sprinting at him, what have you. Muay Thai, it's more about, I'm going to plant my feet right here. You're going to plant your feet right there, and we're going to see who moves first. So it's more about who's tougher and who could take more damage to the point where even the scoring is like that. So if I'm standing against somebody else and we're squaring off and I throw a kick and they block it and they don't move and their foundation is strong, they win the point, not me. Even though I attacked and they defended and they were struck because they didn't move and they were strong in their guard and they were strong in their stance, they win the exchange.
Whereas if I were to move back to avoid the kick, that still looks badly on the person who moves back.
Yes. So the attacker, because you've evaded the strike as opposed to absorbing the strike, I've moved you off your position, so I win the exchange, regardless of if I hit you or not. Versus you defending the strike and not moving, you win the exchange because you were the stronger man.
And it compared Muay Thai to capoeira.
You shouldn't, because I know what you meant in terms
Right.
of the tempo. Of
Right.
Yeah.
Capoeira is like 90% dancing now and like 10% fighting, whereas Muay Thai is like the reverse of that. But like the Muay Thai, like both guys have that sort of cadence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like kind of matching that the tambourine and the.
There's
100% about rhythm, and it's honestly one of the things we try and teach first, because I teach part-time at my gym. I'm learning somebody else's rhythm is huge when it comes to defense and checking and striking and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're on the money with that, my friend. Absolutely.
which is something good that I did want to ask. You are gauging these fights on your own, kind of. You're seeing, you're able to touch the mat. You're seeing everything that's going on. A lot of times these fights are not decided in the ring with the KO or TKO. Has there ever been like a time where you've watched a fight and then you're reading the card for the decision? You're like, wait, what?
A little bit. Oh yeah, sure. It's funny that we talk about points scored, because usually I'm seated right next to one of the three judges, really one of the four judges. And on my other side usually is whatever ref is not officiating that fight. And the refs are usually quite a bit more jovial, but the guys who are the judges, they just like stare kind of blankly, like at the fight. Yeah, they have their hands just like on the table in front of them. They watch the fight, and they keep their score sheet turned face down. And around the bell rings, and the guys go back to the corners. The guy just casually turns his sheet over, writes a score, and he's writing out 10-9. So I don't know. I've never judged before, and I don't know what kind of system. But people always talk in fights or evaluating fights as like scoring points. And I don't know if judges sit there and try to count points as the round goes, or if they just sort of take in the fight, and after that round is, they go, that guy won that round 10-9. I don't know.
You ever disagree with the judges?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like everybody does.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like it's a little bit of a...
I'm sorry. So we're told when we're training people, when we're cornering people, what have you, that there are definitely things that judges are scoring on.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, we're told body kicks get you the highest amount of points in Muay Thai. Yeah. So, for example, if I hit you with a body kick and you come straight back and hit me with a jab, I win the exchange because a body kick counts more than a head strike in Muay Thai. There's also things like ring control. So if I'm constantly pushing you back into the ropes and controlling the center of the ring, technically I should be winning ring control. Aggression is something else. If I'm constantly attacking you and constantly pushing forward, I should be winning that. So we're told as cornermen and coaches and fighters that there is a point system that is being gauged in the fight. Now, whether those judges are actually following that point system or not, I don't know. I've never judged either. But I've heard so many different things and so many different variables of what these judges are looking for. And the funny thing is because of the unified sanctions and what have you, a lot of these judges aren't even Muay Thai judges. They're boxing judges.
I think like that's the case for all combat sports.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the hardest one to judge has to be MMA, because it's like, geez, how do you score an MMA fight? And there's just so many different ways an MMA fight could go, even within one single fight. Like a guy could be getting pieced up on the feet, and then in round 3, take a guy down and win the fight, or who knows? Yeah. Whereas in Muay Thai, it seems like as the rounds go on and as that music increases in pace, the guy who's pacing or whose style is winning out, it's slow. Like you started here, it kind of goes like this. The
domination starts to creep. They start to dominate more and more.
Whereas in MMA, it could just go in so many different directions.
One shot. I mean, there's one shot in Muay Thai, but I mean, all it takes is one takedown, and then he slips in a choke and fights over, even though, like you said, he was getting pieced up the entire round.
Yeah. Yeah. Nuts. Whereas in Muay Thai, it's like, if you're not establishing a good, a winning style or winning pace, or if you're just getting outclassed, there's not much you can change up. It's not like you could take the guy down.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. 100%.
It's a very, very interesting game. I feel like everybody has to be confident. Everybody has to be very driven and motivated to even be a part of any part of the fight game. But for you specifically, you have to present and speak. So how do you keep yourself motivated and confident and keep yourself aired up?
I mean, it's a lot of adrenaline, and it's trying to balance between letting that adrenaline keep me going, and trying to just sit back and relax. I mean, I often, when I go back to my chair ringside, I often do just sort of lean back in my chair, cross my legs, and just stay relaxed. And knowing that as we get to each next fight in the evening that are getting that are for higher and higher stakes, you know, the 10th and 11th fight are for titles, the in the main event. The adrenaline's gonna be there. You know, somebody in the organization said, you know, bring your Red Bulls for, you know, when we get to 11 o'clock, have a Red Bull. And I'm like, I don't need a Red Bull, man. This is like when there's 600 people in the ballroom all screaming and shouting for their guy. There's you know, that's all the adrenaline you need.
I love the collective "Oy" when there's a real clean strike and everybody says it. I love that. That's one of
on the opposite end of that is that whenever fighters are clinched, everyone feels the need to scream knee, and it's like, I think he's got it. Yeah. Especially when I'm sitting and there's like fans like right behind me and they're all screaming knee.
Yeah.
Definitely, and as you said, like as the night progresses, the stakes get really high. People are jeering, really trying to get excited and push forward for the fighters that are there. With these high stakes and these guys really putting their bodies and their training on the line, what are some of the crazier knockouts you've seen, man? Because you get to see it nice up and close.
Oh man, head kick knockouts. I mean, spinning back elbows, devastating.
Ooh,
devastating.
Roshan liked to hear that. Roshan really liked to hear that.
I like spinning shit.
Yeah, man, who doesn't? Spinning back elbows.
Yeah,
that's a new one that I've heard. Yeah, devastating knees. But they don't mess around. They really don't mess around in Muay Thai like they do, again, comparing it to MMA. In MMA, they seem to let stuff go a lot more. Also, in Muay Thai, if somebody gets cut, it's kind of like the win. That's a win right there. They'll stop the fight a little bit sooner in Muay Thai. It seems to me at least. Whereas in MMA, guys are just like going through hell, you know, all blooded up.
I feel like it. I could be wrong. This is complete speculation on my part. But because MMA is so much of a bigger sport, especially in this country, than Muay Thai is, you have a tendency to have better talent in MMA versus Muay Thai.
Of course.
And that extends to the corner men and, you know, the stitch men and the cut men and all that stuff. So the best cut men are kind of in MMA where they can stop those bigger cuts. I mean, you just saw Gilbert Burns and Tyron Woodley fight, and Tyron Woodley got sliced open in that first round, and not a trickle of blood after that.
Yeah, it was weird. That was a little weird.
It was stopped. You know, whereas Muay Thai, especially in a local amateur Muay Thai tournament, you might not have that ability, the guy with that knowledge and that ability to stop that cut as efficiently.
That's true too. That might be why it gets waved off.
Right, because it's going to open up a lot more.
And that in Muay Thai, that might be like the one great equalizer. Is I've seen fights where one guy is clearly outclassing the other guy, and the other guy just throws out like one desperation elbow, catches the guy right in the crown of the head, gets a cut, and that guy wins the fight.
Done. Yep.
Yeah.
Kind of circling back, I had a question for you. With the judges and with, you know, their scoring in between rounds, do you think that the scorecards should be televised or shown between rounds so that the fighters know, oh man, I'm behind, I need to really...
Wow, what a great question. And that was recently the dust was kicked up on that issue recently, right?
Yes.
After which big profile fight?
So it was kind of kicked up after the Anthony Smith Glover Teixeira fight. I heard a lot of it, and then and then the Tyron Woodley fight. I heard more of it. It seems to be getting more and more speed and more momentum behind it, of people wanting to know what is happening when the judges' decisions between these fights, or between these rounds, rather.
Would it be so different, or would it be mostly the same? I don't know.
I think it would be different.
You think it would be?
I think it would. I think guys, I think the perception of who's winning a fight is different in different people's minds. And like kind of we were saying before, some judges are looking for damage. Some judges are looking for ring control. Some judges are looking for aggression. And it's what they're looking for might be different than what the corner is seeing. And so the corner's like, oh man, you're up 2-1. Just ride this out and you got to win. And then it finishes out and you lost by split decision. You're like, what the hell?
Yeah. I mean, you might see more coasting though. If a guy looks up and sees the score and knows that he is up 2-1, then you might see more coasting.
So
not from the other side.
In a personal experience of mine, back in the day, I was a pretty well-profiled. Let me give my fucking story. So I was pretty well-awarded Taekwondo practitioner.
Okay.
So there was a tournament, and I would do pretty well in these tournaments. I'd win. I'd place almost every time. But there was this tournament where I was fighting, and I was looking at the cards because they had the point system on a screen, so you could see it. So while I was fighting, I was looking at the points, and then I was coasting so that I could win the fight. So they caught on to that. So the next fight, I see that I'm up, and I start to coast towards the end again because I'm like, all right, I'm up, I'm going to win this. And later to find out that they had switched what side the numbers were on because they saw me coasting on the cards.
Wow.
Yeah, no, when they didn't pull my hand up, I was so confused. I was like, what do you mean? I was up by 2. But he was up by 2. If I would have known that, I would have been more aggressive. Instead, I was just trying to pawn it off. Like, well, I already won this fight. Let me get my medal.
Now, back in, was it Pride, where they would issue yellow cards for stalling? Was that a thing? I think that was a thing. Probably.
I mean, when I used to wrestle, if you were stalled, they'd say, "Hey, you're stalling," and you get a warning, and then eventually you get a point knocked off.
So maybe that might have to be sort of another rule that's instituted if you're gonna do live scoring, to also to enforce more strictly, rules against.
Yeah, I mean the refs definitely say like get to work, but that is very rarely listened to.
Yeah, I mean, then there's ways to sort of look busy or try to stay busy, but just keep circling and not putting yourself in danger as much.
Yeah.
So I just looked it up, and in Pride, if you got issued a yellow card, you were docked 10% of your purse for stalling.
Oh, so it's for money, not for points.
Yep, for money.
Wow.
So you docked 10% of your purse for stalling.
Yeah, well, they really wanted action back in those Pride days, man. The stomps.
Oh God.
The
soccer kicks.
Oh man.
Oh jeez.
Oh. The early MMA, UFC 4.
Oh.
It was just that was prison fights. That was absolutely
no. It was literally it would be like an old '80s movie where you would just have a bunch of random martial artists from around the world.
It was a Kumite.
Compete. Yeah, it was a Kumite. Exactly.
Oh man, I just watched UFC 1 and UFC 2 a couple weeks ago. One of my friends who I'm on an MMA thread of texting about MMA stuff. He's gone through. He's at Pride 90. He's all the way up to 1995 or something like that. So I started. I'm not doing as well, but those early UFCs, man, with just the different rules, it was crazy. It's oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm glad they unified the rules. I'm glad they cleaned the rules up.
100%. It's not something that would have been, able to move on and gain the popularity that it has now. Reebok is not sponsoring UFC.
Right. 100%.
So it's allowed, I think, a lot of these fighters to focus on fighting as opposed to having day jobs, you know, and really bring out the talents. And like you said, the cream rising to the top. So I'm with you.
Yeah.
So usually with decisions as well, you're raising somebody's hand, which we've kind of covered that's extremely exciting. What about, because you're literally split right in the middle. You're raising one dude's hand, but you're leaving another dude's hand on the pavement over there. So how's that? I know there's definitely energy coming from that way too.
It's tough. I'm not the one who's doing the actual raising.
Oh, okay,
got you.
That's the ref.
But even still, I'm in the ring.
That's the card. My bad.
I'm in the ring, and I've been in the ring when a guy really didn't like the way that a decision went.
That's kind of where I was gunning at.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm just gonna get out of here. I read a split decision once, and the guy who lost the decision was irate. He was irate, and this was a big boy. This guy was a 170-pound fighter, so he might have been like 190 that night, and he wouldn't leave ringside. Even after people were clearing out of the ring, getting ready for the next fight, he was storming around the perimeter of the ring, asking, because it's not obvious who's the judges. I think he was looking for like who the judges were. And the people and the guys from the commission were like, you gotta cool it, man. Like, we'll try to make it right. But stuff like that, it gets tense. It gets really tense.
Well, these guys are putting time in and effort and blood and sweat. And when you're putting it all out there and your hand doesn't get raised, man. Especially if you feel like you were robbed. Especially if you feel like you were robbed.
Yeah, and I remember once I started reading that score, and from the way that I read it, people know that immediately. If you know, you will know immediately that it's a split. Because once I say 29-28 for Smith, that people are like, "Oh, it's split." Yep. And that guy immediately, even though he didn't know who won yet, he was like so mad. And then he lost. Oh man, I was fearing for my life a little bit.
Do you, in your opinion, since you didn't name who it was, do you think that he won, or do you think that he lost?
I think that he lost.
Controversy.
Oh man, so he was getting all mad.
It's tough, man. It's tough. That's why it's an old adage. Everybody says it, but you can't leave it in the hands of the judges, man.
You can't. Agreed. You have to dominate as much as possible.
You got to knock people out. Straight up. Got to knock people out.
You got to go do work.
That's it.
So anybody in your niche of fight announcement that you look up to, are inspired by?
Great question. Since I've gotten more and more into this dream job, it sounds super dorky, and I'm just gonna go there. I'm sort of also like a student of the game. Mm-hmm. So I'm aware. Osmosis. Yeah, so I'm aware of most of the other guys in the profession, if you can call it that. Again, smallest profession in the world. So there's the buffers, obviously, both those guys. I mean, for me, my GOAT is Michael Buffer. He's the Babe Ruth. He is the Michael Jordan of ring announcing. He's everything. He changed the way that it was done. He changed the way that it was viewed. And it was just like his idea.
I was about to say, I can't remember a ring announcer before Michael Buffer.
Me neither.
Right. And there were ring announcers. They were just like some guy.
Yeah.
Don't say his full Rumble tagline, because they got some pretty strong copyrights.
Say
say that to all of us right now.
Yep, I know.
Did you ever hear the story about the Buffer brothers?
I did. Yes, of course. Hello.
How
yes.
insane!
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the story so our viewers can hear?
Okay. I've mostly pieced this together from various Michael Buffer and Bruce Buffer interviews over the years. So you got to go back to Michael Buffer's birth. Michael Buffer was given up for adoption back in 1950 something, maybe early 1960s. Grew up with a different last name. Had a normal childhood, I believe, in Pennsylvania. When he was 18 or 20 years old, he enlisted. He fought in, I think Vietnam. And in the army, because his adopting parents, for whatever reason, never went through the full process of changing his name to their last name. The guys at the Army told him, they were like, that's not your real last name. Your real last name is actually Buffer. And he was like, oh, okay. So they gave him the uniform, said Buffer on it. And he was like, from that point forward, he was like Michael Buffer. Okay, there's that. He comes home from Vietnam War, meets a girl, gets married. Again, he's not a performer at all. He's not any kind. He's just like a normal guy from Pennsylvania. Has a marriage, has 2 kids. I think 7 or 8 years goes by. Towards his late 20s, he gets divorced. He shares custody with his kids, I think. And he was a good-looking guy. He was like in his late 20s. What's the phrase? Sowing his oats or something? Feeling his oats or something like that?
Sowing his wild oats.
Sowing his wild oats. He was a lean, good-looking guy. He started doing some print modeling. And print modeling, I believe, led to a couple of commercials. And then because he had done a couple of commercials, and he was always a huge boxing fan, and one night, he was watching some fights with his son. I think maybe his daughter. I don't know. Let's go with his son. And his son looked up at him when this ring announcer was on TV, and he said to his dad, "You could do that, Dad." And Michael Buffer was like, "Yeah, I think I could, because I've done modeling. I've done a couple of commercials. I could probably do that." So he makes up a resume. He creates a headshot. And he mails it. He snail mails it, because that's what you do back in the 1980s.
Yeah.
To all the different casinos, I think, in Atlantic City, not realizing that the casinos weren't the ones who hired the ring announcer for fights. Winds up getting his fake resume into the hands of the right people, and they gave him a shot. And he was terrible, and they fired him, and they went back to some old guy again. And this was around the time in the 80s when boxing was really starting to blow up on cable or TV or whatever it was back then. And the guy who was this one promotion's ring announcer was just going on and on. And the TV station was telling the casino, you got to get this guy to speed up. And eventually it didn't work out, and they fired that guy. So the people who hired ring announcers went back to his stack of resumes, and there was Michael Buffer. They called him back again and said, "We're going to give you another shot." And that was it. He got another shot, and he never looked back, and he just grew and grew and grew in popularity. Now, remember, he was given up for adoption. So as Michael Buffer was becoming Michael Buffer, one day Bruce Buffer is in his car with his dad, and he brings it up to his dad. He's like, "Dad, this guy, he's this boxing ring announcer is becoming pretty popular. His name is Michael Buffer, and I think we have a resemblance." And Bruce Buffer's dad goes, "Yeah, I think that's your brother." And Bruce Buffer was like, "What?" So Bruce Buffer he's about 10 years younger than Michael Buffer, and they're half brothers, remember. He finds a way to reach out and contact Michael Buffer and says, "I think I'm your half brother. I'd love to connect with you." And Bruce Buffer was a businessman. I think he had telemarketing companies throughout his 20s. And he was very business-minded, business savvy. And after meeting his brother Michael, who was already very popular, he said, "Let me be your business manager, and I'll help us both make way more money than we could ever imagine." And it was Bruce Buffer's idea to trademark "Let's Get Ready to Rumble." And then from just being around fights, and then I believe the UFC was in that early phases of UFC 2 and 4, where it was crazy. He saw his own sort of in. He was like, "I think I want to try this too, but I'm not going to go in the boxing world and compete with my half brother. This new sport is cropping up." So he found his way into the UFC and became their guy. And Bruce Buffer is Michael Buffer's manager to this day. And that's their story.
Isn't that crazy?
Insane. Absolutely insane.
Crazy.
Caught him driving. You know what I caught from that story as well? Your reflected, or your mirror, is that you pulled the modern day move of what Mike Buffer pulled, which was he sent a bunch of mail to a bunch of casinos or a bunch of places that housed fights, trying to find a promotion. You went out and either DM'd or however you did it, reached out to a bunch of promotions to try to get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
So sometimes a grinder's mindset just never changes through the years. It's just, the way you do it's a little different.
Yeah. And like I said, Michael Buffer is sort of, he's like my guy. And I like to think that I emulate him more than any other kind of guy. It's kind of hard to emulate Bruce Buffer. He's a pretty...
He's honestly my personal favorite. He's not the living legend I know, but I just like the It's Time.
Oh,
what's funny is their two styles are so drastically different. And if you had to build a spectrum, I would guess, of ring announcing, I feel like Bruce Buffer is on one end and Michael Buffer is on the other. Whereas I feel like Michael Buffer is very classic, very James Bond with it. He has the deep baritone voice. He's not very animated. He's very kind of put together. And then you have Bruce Buffer with the wild wardrobes and super animated, and he's jumping around and he's throwing his arm out and pointing at people, and It's Time. And you see him, his veins are popping in his neck and he's screaming, he's all red. But both of them are equally as effective.
Yeah.
So, something about seeing him announce TJ Dillashaw or Outlaw back in the day.
Dan Hardy.
Yeah, man, those were the best.
Guys would get so hyped.
Yeah,
I would get hyped. I was watching old fights and I was getting goosebumps. So
yeah, man.
Here's a quick question, and this is kind of a stupid question, but it just came to me. So you are the face of the fight that night, right? Is there any sort of contractual bylaws on what your appearance has to look like? If you wanted to shave your head, could you? Or get tattoos?
It's not at that level. It's just not. No. I just show up and I get paid and that's it. I'm a mercenary.
He still owns his image for now.
Right. Yeah, I guess so. For now. I mean, Bruce Buffer, he's exclusive with the UFC. And if a promotion came to me and said, let's be exclusive, and if the price is right, maybe.
Hey. I called myself a culinary prostitute for years. I just sell it to the highest bidder,
There you go.
Well, I mean,
for those that don't know, I'm a chef by trade, so
very cool.
I hope that doesn't clears up why that sounded a little weird. Isn't it?
Chef by day, Muay Thai teacher by night. Although really, maybe it's flipped. You're Muay Thai teacher by day, chef by night.
So, not to get off track, but I actually work for a corporate company now, so I'm a corporate executive chef. So I'm bank hours. I'm Monday through Friday, 9 to 5.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So he's chopping up. He's culinary by day, Muay Thai by night, podcaster by midnight,
bouncer by weekends.
Oh, bouncer.
There you go.
A little bit of everything,
hustle, man. Everybody's got their hustle.
A little bit of everything. I'm trying to buy a house, man.
There you go.
Michael.
Yes.
A couple of famous taglines out there that we just kind of went through. Do you, and even if you don't, do you have any inspiration or any tagline that you're kind of tweaking or working with, or something you want to label as your own?
Man.
Because you can't tell me that you didn't sit there and think about it.
For years. And maybe it is the kind of thing where it kind of like a nickname, like you can't give yourself a nickname, you kind of have to earn one. I've thought long and hard about taglines, and everybody, that's also like the second or third question that people ask when I tell them that I'm a ring announcer is like, do you have a tagline? Or like, you got to get a good tagline, man. Like that's going to make or break you. And I'm like, I think the relationships I form in the organization are going to make and break me. So I try to draw inspiration from a few different things, but I have a hard time, guys. It's hard. I settled on it's about to go down, and then I changed to it's time to shine. I don't know, though. I don't know. Maybe I'll get some help from the fans of the Commotion.
Ooh, that's great. Guys, I love that. If you have a suggestion for what Michael Hanson's tagline should be, it might come up on UFC Fight Pass. Who knows? It might come up somewhere on film. Throw it in the comments. We would definitely love to hear what you think.
Yeah.
Love that.
So, Mike, do you have a day job? Like, do you have something that you do?
I do.
And then this is something that you're building?
Yeah, I'm a speech therapist by day.
Okay.
Yeah, I went back to school and I got a master's a few years ago. And but I still always kept ring announcing as like this dream, this someday, how the hell can I break into this industry kind of dream.
Is it something that there's potential for full-time employment?
For ring announcing?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a gig economy kind of thing.
It's the deals that you make, right?
It's the deals that I would make. It's a weekends kind of thing. And if my level of pay ever gets to a point where I don't have to work Monday through Friday and I can just,
Well, you'd still be working, because what would happen is that you'd be traveling to about 30 to 40 different places a year.
Yeah.
Because they would want the Michael Hanson to announce their fight,
Right.
their sporting event, their special day, whatever it may be. So yeah, you have the trade-off, It just depends on what is making you more money and what is keeping your heart more satisfied.
Right. I mean, I would love to do that. If the price is right, man, it seems like an incredible journey.
Hey, now it's all
If
about
somebody was willing to pay me to just strictly fight, I would do it in a heartbeat for not even that much money.
Yeah.
love it.
So here's again another question. Throughout history, how everybody says, like, if you could have dinner with like 3 people from history, who would it be? If you could call one fight, if you could announce one fight with any fighter from any discipline throughout history, what would it be?
Oh my God.
Good question.
That's just it's too big to
You can name 2 fighters.
So
They're
many.
fighting each other. Who are the 2 guys? They don't even have to be the same weight class.
Tyson Ali, you know what I mean? Like yeah.
Tyson Ali, John Jones, Conor McGregor, just the biggest names of the sport, man. It would be the most surreal thing. I mean, listen, realistically, all those, I mean, Ali, Tyson, but like the McGregors and the John Joneses, they're not going to be there when I get there.
Right.
So it's going to be
The Young Bucks.
somebody else.
The young blood will be rising up.
Yeah. But yeah, if I could announce anybody, I'd have to say Conor McGregor. He's the biggest star in combat sports. Oh, or like Tyson Fury. Oh my God.
Oh man, Tyson.
Oh my God. He's now demanding the most lucrative contract in boxing history.
Yep. Yeah. Which, man, he is something. That guy.
Yeah, man.
He is.
Athletic freak.
I get so impressed. Like, all right, so a guy that's built like Deontay Wilder, a guy that's built like Anthony Joshua, it's like, yeah, you're supposed to be really good at this. Like, look at how you're built. But then you have a guy like Tyson Fury who looks like he just got up off the couch crushing a 6-pack and goes out there and outperforms these physical specimens with technique. And you could tell like he's put time in. Daniel Cormier is another guy. Daniel Cormier, I don't think anybody's going to argue that he looks like the peak physical condition of a human being.
Yeah.
John Jones is literally the only person on the planet that can beat him in MMA, in my opinion.
You're right, and it's been true.
Yeah.
That's exactly
well,
that
until
history,
recently.
history has said. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But hey, man, don't sleep. Just because a guy doesn't have a 6-pack and isn't a mesomorph doesn't mean he's not an athlete, or doesn't mean that he can't fight.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, Dan is pretty athletic for a big guy, which always just throws me off because he's just a freak athlete, but he's a big dude.
I'm 6 foot and I'm bringing it down. But I was about 240.
Okay.
And not all muscle, believe me. You know, there's definitely there's a lot of bacon, a lot of beer involved in that 240.
Good. A lot of character. Let's say character.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. But I mean, I played football in high school. I've always been able to connect that mental aspect of connecting my brain to my feet and my hands and my hips and knowing how to move my body is it's something that I've been able to do. So to your point, yes, some guys that don't look the part but are just have that athletic trait, they're sneaky dudes, man. I mean, Roy Nelson was one of my favorite guys to watch.
Yeah, man.
Big country.
Big country. You know what's funny is Dana White. There's a story that I heard. Dana White was pleading with him, like, dude, if you just lost some weight and go down to like middleweight, you would dominate. And he's like, nah, man, I'm good. I like to eat.
He's like, I'm big country, man. I got to do this when I win.
Right.
Oh man. You got anything else, Dan?
I do. I know we're coming up on a little bit of time, but I do. So one thing I've been dying to ask, and I wrote this down. I want to save it for last. Do you know anything about Lethway?
Oh, this guy.
Left way?
All right.
No. Is it?
You'll
I'm sorry,
find
I
out
don't.
eventually. No.
It's so here's awesome. So what you need to do,
Okay.
you need to start talking to some Lethway promotions and throw your name in that ring, because I think it's going to explode and be huge. And I believe that they just signed on for a promotion for the US for Lethway.
Really?
So, yeah,
I'm surprised because it seems super dangerous.
it's super dangerous.
Okay,
I'll let
tell
you
me
explain
what
what
this
it
is.
is.
All right,
Yeah.
so Lethway is a Burmese style bare knuckle boxing. So it's formerly Burma, currently Myanmar, is the country that developed it.
Uh-huh.
And it's an offshoot of Muay Thai
Uh-huh.
with the addition of takedowns and headbutts.
And headbutts.
Headbutts are legal. So the rules have been modified for the US, but traditional rules is you could win by knockout only. And if you didn't win by knockout, the fight was a draw.
Uh-huh.
And if you knocked somebody out, their corner had 2 minutes to revive them, and you had to knock them out again.
What?
Bare knuckle.
What?
I don't know how that got sanctioned
Dude.
in the US.
Dude, so gauze and wraps, that's it, bare knuckle. And you can have full-on, like, suplex takedowns.
And can you fight on the ground?
No. Once you
No.
hit the ground, up, fight again. But headbutts are legal. Elbows, knees, kicks, punches, takedowns are all legal in Lethway.
How do you spell that?
Lethwei. Lethway.
Okay. This is
It's-
Burmese?
Burmese. It's Burmese bare knuckle boxing.
So you know how they call Muay Thai the art of the 8 limbs because you're using your fists, your elbows, your knees, and your feet, or your legs? Well, they call this the art of the 9 limbs because
Right,
of that.
'cause you're adding-
Boom!
You're adding the headbutts.
Watch out for those
And-
heads, man.
Yeah, and let me tell you something. I took a seminar with the king of Lethway. He's the most dominant Lethway fighter in the world. He's the open weight world champion, Dave Leduc.
Uh-huh.
And he came down to Jersey and he came to our gym and he did a seminar, and it totally changes the game. Worrying about headbutts totally changes the game.
Sure.
It's crazy. It's
Sure.
awesome. But I think it's going to start taking off. There's a lot of momentum behind it. So I was curious of your perception of it, if you had heard about it.
I haven't. I'm going to look it up like tonight.
Yeah, it's something you should definitely check out, man, and maybe get your name in the ring, and you could be the face of Lethway for the US.
So they do have U.S. promotions now?
So they just signed a US promotion. I think it's going to start in 2021.
Wow.
They're going to start fighting it and booking it and so on and so forth. And yeah, Dave Leduc, he's French Canadian, and how he got started in it, how he got his name in it, is every year in Burma, Myanmar, they do prison fights pretty much, and anybody can do it, and pretty much anybody of the inmate population can put their name into fight, and if you win the whole thing, it's tournament style, you either get released from prison or your sentence gets reduced drastically. He flew to Burma.
Fight your way out of jail.
Yeah,
You ever see Undisputed?
it's right.
Oh, I think I've seen bits and pieces of that.
With Wesley Snipes, yeah.
Yes.
So he flew to Burma and signed up for these prison fights and won it. And that's how he became his name. And then he fought Tun Tun Min, who was he's a legend. He's the Sanchai of Burmese bare knuckle boxing. He beat Tun Tun to be the open weight world champion, which open weight, as you know, is anybody of any weight class can fight this man.
Yeah.
And he fights him.
Wow.
He demolishes people.
Do you know where it's going to be in the U.S.?
I don't know if it's like
Lethway.
that far along yet.
Okay. You know what Lethway
It's insider knowledge.
I'm sure. What does Lethway mean? Does it
I
mean
believe-
like...
I believe it means the art of 9 limbs.
Okay. And sure. I mean, like any guy who dreams of being an athlete or fighter, I've thrown a few embarrassing shadow punches in my bedroom every now and then.
Yeah.
But I've always wanted to train, but it's just honestly, it's a little too rich for my blood right now. Joining a legit Muay Thai gym or jiu-jitsu gym.
It is definitely expensive, especially in the city.
Yeah.
But
I mean, for the past few years, I've been a member at like Blink, which is like $20, and I'm good.
yeah,
But I would love to join like Henzo Gracie's in Manhattan, man. But I think that's like $150 a month or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love it. And I know a lot of I know a lot of those guys now. So
yeah, well, yeah. I was wondering if you would like, hey man, come on, I'll give you a little bit of extra bump next fight if you come down this check a little bit.
One day. Go ahead.
You're gonna have to make sure you don't train like a week or two before you announce, because then you'll just be limping in.
I know. I'll forget knocked out in practice.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that happens.
Yeah, one day I'm going to try to make up for all the years. I'm just going to do privates with Henzo. That's all I'm going to do.
There you go.
Hey.
For like a year.
For the stand-up game, I recommend the Watt.
Oh, really?
Okay. Crew Phil Nurse, man, he is genius.
I actually know a couple of people out of the Watt too. Good place.
Crew Phil, he's a GSP striking coach.
Oh wow, okay. The last person who I announced out of the Watt was Haley Day. She was a winner that night out of the Watt.
Yeah, that's a legit gym, man. The Watt, those guys know what they're doing. And I will personally invite you if you ever wanted to come over to our side of the river once this is all over. If you ever want to come down to Jaisu, you will be my guest. And
thanks, man.
Get some work in.
It'd be awesome. Get my ass beat up.
I'll show you a little bit. I'll show you the rhythm. I'll show you
that'd be awesome.
So that's it for me, Roshan. I don't have any more questions, man.
Awesome,
I thought it was my big one. That was what I had loaded in the chamber.
Love it. Great. So we're just gonna rock right into the commotion locomotion, our rapid fire round. So just a couple of questions, nothing too crazy. But yeah. So if you could give yourself some advice, your past self some advice, what would you do? What would you give yourself?
Oh, that's a great question. In terms of ring announcing?
In terms of life, in terms of ring announcing, in terms of whatever.
I would tell myself to reach out to even more promotions early on, because it's a numbers game, and to just not be afraid and just start swinging, like my dad always told me.
Hey, always put yourself out there. Reach high, expect low.
Yeah.
Dan asked you about who you would announce dead or alive. One of my questions was actually the lunch with somebody dead or alive. Who and why?
Maybe the greatest boxer that ever lived, Sugar Ray Robinson. That would be insane. But also Mike Tyson, man. He's just such an icon.
I have a personal big love for Mike. Iron Mike, man. Just that guys like him, the mentality, him, Kobe, that like next level mentality, you can't replicate that.
Yeah.
What do you, a lot of people have a lot of bad habits. What do you think your best habit is?
My best habit?
Your best habit. Damn right.
Man. Breakfast. I eat my same special oatmeal recipe almost every single morning since I was like 18.
Discipline.
Oatmeal's great for you.
Yeah.
Hey, it's that discipline, creature of habit. When the world is back in a better place health-wise, where would you like to travel next?
That's a great question. I've not traveled to too many places. A place that I really need to get to is I need to go to Italy.
Okay.
I'm Italian.
Okay, go back to the motherland. See what the roots is like.
Go to the motherland. I've never been there.
Oh, go to the motherland. Hey, grace them with your presence.
And I also want to go to London because I love English history.
Love it. Give me a useless skill. What's a skill that you have? It's like,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to hit you with the most embarrassing one.
Love it.
I can name almost any flag. That's it.
Really?
Yeah.
So like if I threw Luxembourg at you.
Oh yeah. Yep. And it's not like a cool.
Wait, like you
thing.
know what it looks like?
Yes.
Yeah, like if you put a picture of a flag up in front of him, he'll be able to tell you what country it's from.
Yep. Totally useless. Totally.
That's awesome. Are you kidding me? We got the UN over here. That's gonna work. That's gonna work perfectly with your career, as you're gonna be flying out for different countries, announcing fights and events.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, so it's all coming together. If you could only listen to 3 music artists for the rest of your life, who are they and why?
Okay. Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Okay.
Pre or post John Frusciante? Because they changed after John Frusciante left the group, man.
I would, if you made me choose, I'd say before. Okay, 3. So, Chili Peppers.
Got the Peppers.
I want to say John Legend. I love John Legend.
Ooh,
and got to go more old school. Maybe Sam Cooke.
Oh, nice.
Love Sam Cooke.
Nice. Well done.
Thank you.
Love it. How do you personally define success?
I think reputation for me is a big part of that, is how the people you work with perceive you and think of you.
Okay. No, absolutely. You have to give, your best self.
Yeah.
I love that.
There's also being filthy rich. Maybe that. Not there yet.
No, you know what? We have not actually had anybody be honest enough to be like, yo, money.
A yacht. I'm saying a yacht.
Hey, there we go.
No, here it is. No, I got it for you. Ready? When I drive through a neighborhood and I see a giant house that has a gate, I want gate money.
Nice. Yeah. Gate money would be
what it is.
Gate money would be good.
That's going to be the new standard. We're going to hold that to the new bar. I like that.
Gate money.
There you go.
What is your favorite other sport?
Basketball. I love the NBA. I'm a big basketball
What
guy.
team?
The Knicks. I'm from New York. Come on.
What about the Nets?
What about the Nets? Come on, enough.
I'm the same. I'm the same way with the Giants, man. I love the Giants, but every time somebody asks me who my team is, I'm like, the Giants.
Yeah.
We will not go into ownership issues right now, but
okay.
What we will go into is the last question, which is, if you have the opportunity to announce anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Madison Square Garden.
Damn right.
I mean, I'm a New Yorker, so that's it.
Damn right. No, I was expecting that. If you said somewhere else, I would have been a little confused.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Also, there's something about Vegas, man. Vegas and combat sports, it's nice to be.
Well, you've already done Atlantic City, right?
No, just New York.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, you're going to hit that soon.
That's right.
Because we do know that Warriors Cup is out there as well. Well, awesome, man. I want to say thank you again so much for taking out time from your day to come and talk with us. It was really cool getting your perspective, and insights on this wonderful world of fighting and all the different pieces that go into it.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys so much for having me on. It's been really fun.
Thanks, man. So once again, that is Michael Hanson, ring announcer for Friday Night Fights on UFC Fight Pass, and fight announcer for the Warriors Cup by the Three Pillars Promotions. We're going to have all his information in the description below. So definitely make sure you go check him out. Make sure you follow him, because you will definitely be seeing him on your TV in the future.
That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, once again, I am Roshan Joshi here with Dan Smith. And thanks for all taking out time, and stay blessed, guys.
Grinding my whole life. Stop that. Grinding my whole life.